Hello, welcome to Demos Galore. I'm Joanne Pollock and I'm going to show you the Simply Succulents bundle on page 39 of the January through June 2021 mini catalog. And what sold me on this was that die right there. So I'm probably going to show you I'm definitely going to show you a few things using that one. So here's the stamp set. And here's the dies. You get 8 cling stamps, and there are 13 dies in the set. Many of them cut out the stamped images, some are standalone, and then these labels are so pretty. But again, wow, love that die. It cuts the insides and doesn't cut the edge, so you can make it any size you want. So I always stamp out my images so that I can put them in a binder and see what I have. So here's all of them stamped out, and here's the dies. The outside edge does not cut, and this piece is 4 1/8 by 5 1/2. And you get 2 identical dies for cutting out the littlest succulent. So what I'm going to show you today is what I thought of when I first saw that die. I'm going to use our new blending brushes and that die as a stencil. And I put a little adhesive on the back of here, and I want to make it not too sticky so I can get it off again. So we'll stick that down on our paper. And then I'm going to take some painter's tape to hold my stencil in place while I use our new blending brushes to ink it. I'm trying to center it, but yeah, pretty much just if it's on the paper, because I'm going to cut it down anyway. Now I'm going to take our silicone mat so that I can keep the ink there. Taking Flirty Flamingo, and I'm just going to color around just because I want a little bit of pink. This will be covered up with some of the greens that I'm using later. I thought Flirty Flamingo went really well with the greens. So move that to the side, and now I'm bringing in Pear Pizzazz. With the blending brushes, you're going to get a much lighter color than you would if you were using the sponges or the sponge daubers. The sponge daubers give a very deep color. But doing this, you can get 2 cards out of one process. I'm going to finish up with Old Olive. And for Old Olive, I'm going to tap it off. Maybe I'll do them this way, because it's a little darker and I don't want ink blobs. Or at least I try not to get ink blobs. So then you keep going around, I still got one there, and get a little deeper color. And then wait till you see what it ends up looking like. Okay. Here's the reveal. Look at how pretty that is. Won't that make a great background? Let's move this out of the way. So we take off that and then wiggle this. Doesn't have too much adhesive because we touched that to our clothes first. And then you cut them down and you can get this. This I cut to 5 by 3 3/4. And this one I just sort of cut a border around. I'll work with that to make it fit on my card. And what I ended up doing was making these 2 cards. So I used the background just as it is with gold foil behind it to give it some shine, and then those gorgeous labels with the thanks. And then for this card, I matted it on with, oh, actually that's Shimmery White. Shimmery White cardstock using, most likely, I used liquid glue, a sponge, and the silicone mat and did the back. But I would recommend using adhesive sheets. It's so much easier. I just forget almost every time. So I die cut that with the stitched rectangles, and then I use the stitched rectangles to die cut the center, and then matted that on Pear Pizzazz and popped it up, and then did some of the succulents in, I believe, Old Olive and Pear Pizzazz. And then another way to use that stencil is with our embossing paste. I mean, how pretty is that? And this I made with the same colors, just inking some of the backgrounds, and die cut some of the, using some of the dies from the succulent dies. These are the standalone. The green I just cut behind the pink, and then this one I stamped and die cut. And I would recommend using vellum for your stencil if you're going to do this, because otherwise you might get some paper stuck in there, and we don't want that. For this, I used the succulents as the focal point on our make and take kind of fun fold card. And again, I really liked that, thanks. And using those labels. So then you see that it opens up like this. The next one, I used watercolor paper, and I stamped the large image all over it, and then embossed with clear embossing powder, and then painted it. Well, I did Pear Pizzazz and Old Olive and Flirty Flamingo, kind of brushing all over in random, and then more focused, I used Mossy Meadow to paint in the succulents to define them a little better. This one I just wanted to showcase the stamped images. I also inked the background with the same 3 colors, and then die cut that and put that on the In Good Taste paper. And the You've Been on My Mind, I wanted that to be subtle, so I embossed it with gold embossing powder, and it kind of, you can see it, but it doesn't glare at you, and I wanted it to just be subtle. This card is 3 layers of the Granny Apple Green die cut, and I just thought that was so pretty. Because I'd forgotten the adhesive sheets on most of them, I used the glue on the back, and I had a little squirt out, so I sprayed it with the Frost White paint mixed with rubbing alcohol to give it an all-over sheen so that you don't really notice it. And then I colored in the little succulent with Wink of Stella. Here's another twofer where I wanted to use the Pretty Peacock Eau d'Olive ribbon, so I die cut with 2 or 3, I don't remember, of the backgrounds out of Pretty Peacock, and then mounted them on Old Olive, and then I used the stitch rectangles to cut out the center, and then I got 2 cards out of that. And then for my last card, I think this one's really pretty. I die cut that background out of Mossy Meadow, Old Olive, and Pear Pizzazz, and then this time I remembered to use the adhesive adhesive sheets, so much easier. And then you shift them a little bit so that you can see all of the colors. And then I use the Elegant Faceted Gems just to give it some sparkle. So thank you for joining me, and that was the Simply Succulents bundle featuring this Simply Succulents stamp set and the Potted Succulents dies.